Denise Dowling, Chair of the Radio Television Department and Associate Professor at the University of Montana School of Journalism.
All right, Denise, one of the biggest stories that's happened in network journalism for quite a few years just occurred this week when it was revealed that Brian Williams made some misstatements of fact several times in his newscast, and as a result has been basically put on suspension for 6 months. And without pay, from what I understand. And I wanted to find out, you as an educator, this is what you teach young people for a living, and hope someday they'll get into that rarefied air of network news, perhaps someday. So how did this whole episode strike you as an educator?
Well, as an educator, it's obviously got all kinds of teaching moments in it. As a former employee of an NBC broadcast affiliate in Spokane, Washington, it was a moment that truly made me sad for Brian Williams, for NBC News, and for broadcast news people around the world.
Right. In what way did it make you sad? Why was it so upsetting for you?
Brian Williams is one of the most trusted people, was one of the most trusted people on the planet, and had a reputation for being, to quote someone else, one of the good guys in broadcast journalism, was always seen as a straight shooter. When you know that broadcast journalists have a serious problem with reputation, because we do have many providers of journalism on the broadcast format who are less than truthful. And Brian was always seen as someone who was above board and dedicated to bringing truthful information to people. So when this happened, it was a blow not just for NBC News, but for broadcast journalism in general.
Do you see any way back for Mr. Williams after 6 months? I'm not sure exactly how you go about rebuilding a reputation that you've worked so many years to try to build.
I think one of the things that NBC News has done, to their credit, is they've let people know how seriously they're taking this by immediately putting Mr. Williams on suspension as they investigate what else might be out there. And so I feel like they have bought themselves some time, essentially, and they're going to investigate and see the depth of the problem. I don't know what will come out of it. I think they'll also be able to capture the lay of the land with viewers. Interestingly, they are in a ratings period. February is one of the major ratings periods for television news, so they will have an opportunity to check those diaries and see if people might be tuning in even more to see how NBC News is handling this. I don't know. But they'll be able to get a gauge of what the public thinks ought to happen with Brian Williams.
So as an educator, I'm sure that you've had discussions already with some of your students and some of your classes regarding this incident. What is the most common thing that's been discussed, and what are you trying to relate to your students?
One of the things that we are trying to relate to the students is they have to be truthful in everything that they do. With journalists, you have your reputation, and that's all you have. Any small breach of that trust that you have with your viewers and your listeners will come back to haunt you. So it's just a reinforcement of the code of ethics that journalists abide by, to tell the truth, to tell the whole truth, and not to exaggerate, misremember, or whatever the words that they're using, that you have nothing but your reputation, and you've got to protect it.
All right. And so when you are teaching from here on in, will you be using this as basically as an object lesson? Let's remember what happened to Brian Williams. And so as you embark into your careers, just put that up there maybe in the corner of your mind as to, this is what I don't want to happen to me.
Absolutely. And I think that Brian Williams is in a unique position because he's well known to the older audience, but he also has a following among younger viewers, and I believe that they will take this away as an object lesson as they launch their broadcast journalism careers, what not to do.
Right, Denise, just what I needed. Well, tell you what, let me just ask you one more thing.
Sure.
To wrap up, if you were going to be speaking to a lot of folks who, just in the general public, who are consumers of broadcast news, broadcast journalism, what's the message that you want them to take from this?
I want them to understand that broadcast news operations value the truth-telling that comes from their reporters, and that they trust their reporters to tell the truth, the unvarnished truth, and not to exaggerate even as the years go along. But I would also remind people that broadcast journalism is the same as any other industry, that there are bad apples in the barrel. But I want people to know that for the most part, broadcast journalists are dedicated journalists who are working on behalf of the public to bring them information that they need in an unbiased way.